What is going on? It is James, aka the Comic Raider, and man, it feels like I have not done a video in a while. Definitely haven't done a movie review in a while. I haven't even been to the movies in a while. So it was time to get back. It is October. I am participating in the 31 days of low grade horror. So if you're not following the low grades, please do so. Fridays at 7 Pacific time, the only time that matters. And we have put together a list of 31, well, it's more than 31, but a movie every day, a good horror movie every day. So technically, we didn't put Exorcist Believer until Saturday, but I had to watch it Thursday. I know J2 has already seen it, so we'll definitely talk about it on the show Friday, but I wanted to drop my review here, fresh out of the theater, fresh on my mind, and so as always, non-spoiler review. I think it's mid. It's good. It's good. I enjoyed it a bit. But I would classify this as just a mid movie. It is not great. It doesn't, like, I don't know if it really introduces that much new things. There is parts that are new, like the exorcism. The act of the exorcism itself has some new elements, at least to me, that were new. But, and then of course up to Annie with you have the two girls possessed now. So, I mean, it does some things. It's kind of that requel sequel with David Gordon Green as the writer, director, and writer. Yeah, David Gordon Green is the writer, director with Danny McBride. Infamous for starting off the new Halloween great and then kind of going downhill from there. I have a Halloween Ends rant available on this channel that you can check out. This is not that bad, but it definitely does not start as high as Halloween did. That Halloween 2018 is actually one of my favorites of the series. This, unfortunately, does not do the same thing. But it is by no means, I wouldn't call it terrible. I wouldn't say that it's worse than Halloween Ends. But it just doesn't, you want to kind of judge it as its own movie, but that's hard because it is a sequel to The Exorcist. He sticks with the theme of, all the other sequels don't really count. So it's a sequel to The Exorcist, so in such you have to treat it as such. So you have to kind of compare it to The Exorcist. If I'm comparing it to The Exorcist, it drops down probably even more in my opinion. Maybe I would go like 4 out of 5. Like, it makes The Exorcist seem so much better, and it makes this movie seem so much worse if I'm comparing the two. As a standalone movie, it then just falls in that mid category. The acting, I thought, was great. The actors did an amazing job. I jumped twice. One scene in particular, I went with my dad. One scene got us both in particular, and I think we'll get most people. But, other than that, it's not, it just doesn't deliver like the first one, the original one does. And I will be honest, I am not the type of person that always has to hold the originals up here and, is like, nothing can ever touch it. But in this case, it doesn't even come close. It really does not. It just doesn't capture the same intensity, was the word that I think my dad used. And it that's true. It really doesn't. This movie as a whole does not capture the intensity of the first one. And it really is it's a 2023 version. Everything is tamed compared to the original, and I think the movie suffers because of that. Now, I went in with, I'll be honest, my expectations kind of roller coastered. I was very excited for it when I heard it was coming out. Um, after like Halloween Ends, I was really sour on it because I hated Halloween Ends. I still do, and so I didn't have as much faith in. I think they call themselves Atomic Robot. Is Danny McBride and David Gordon Green together? But I didn't have as much faith in that team anymore. Um, and so then it kind of went down a little bit. But then as the movie was coming out and I saw the trailer, I was like, you know what? Now I'm back up here. And then honestly, in the last like 24 hours, I haven't read reviews, but I saw like the numbers that it was getting, and so then my expectations kind of came down a bit. So in that aspect, with that in mind, having lower expectations, it then met and maybe exceeded them a little tiny bit. Um, so if you go in with high expectations, you're probably going to be very disappointed, is what I'm trying to get at. So that's pretty much my non-spoiler, man. It is mid, but it's still worth a watch. It's worth a watch. I mean, I guess if you're asking me, like, I'm on a budget, am I paying top dollar? No, probably not. Now I would probably say watch it on a matinee, save a couple bucks. It's not run to the theater. Man, I gotta be honest, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't even know if I can tell you that you have to see it in theaters. I don't think so. It's just mid. So if it's just mid, then I can't really say, oh yeah, you have to go check this out in theaters. I just can't. That would be wrong. So that's pretty much the non-spoiler. So for spoilers, I mean, acting-wise, like I said, acting-wise, I thought all the characters did a great job. I liked all the characters. Excuse me. From the dad, the daughters, the supporting cast, the neighbor who kind of becomes a much bigger role at the end, the parents of the other girl, the girls themselves, if I didn't say that already, and the return of, I don't want to get her name wrong, so MacNeil. So the return of Chris MacNeil was awesome. Although I'll get into that in a minute. But so yeah, I think acting wise, everybody did an amazing job. It just, and then the story is very simple. The girls go out in the woods, possession happens, and now they come back and they've got that demon in them. And from there, it's trying to understand what's going on. The father is a non-believer, and so then it's going to lead into them getting worse and worse and worse, and then of course you're going to have an exorcist at the end of the movie, right? So plot-wise, it's like you've seen this before, especially if you've seen a bunch of exorcism type movies, which I'll admit I have not seen a bunch. So if you've seen a bunch, I'm sure this movie does really nothing for you. That's new. And then pacing wise, I mean, it was like a slow burn. I don't even know how long. It might be possibly 30-40 minutes before it really like started to kind of pick up. There's a long like introduction to the father, and then having the daughter, and then the daughter and their relationship and going to school, and then it drags on in the beginning for a bit, and then it finally starts to get going, and then when it does get going, it is better. So like plot wise, it's a little off there for me, but I think if you're a person that like really loves backstory and loves setup and all that, then sure, you'll love the first part of it. But yeah, and then like I said, I think the big thing is it just doesn't capture what the original Exorcist does. For starters, everything is so toned down in the original, you have her calling her mother a cunt. Um, the language that's used, there is none of that. I mean, there's a tiny, tiny bit, but it's nothing compared to that. Her attacking people or attacking herselves, because obviously it has the two girls, is nothing like what we saw in the original. The shock value stuff is not there. There's a tiny scene in the church that, I'll be completely honest, I looked away for a quick second to grab a gummy bear and I missed it. So that's how short of a part this, she was supposed, I guess one of the girls, the one that's in church, was, I don't want to say it, but she was using her fingers. I'll just say that. So it's like, okay, sure, she's in a church. That's a little for the shock factor, but like, come on, dude. What you got in the original, stabbing in the crotch with the cross? Like, no, doesn't even come close. And then, so between all that, it's like, okay, well, it doesn't do the same. It just doesn't. And then, honestly, you get to the exorcism part. I will admit, what I did think was cool was they almost kind of, it was almost like the Avengers. They put together a team of your standard religious family. I don't think they actually get into what they are, so if I am wrong, sorry. But let's just say, for example, they are just your typical Christian family with the priest. And then there was a lady who was more focused on, she called it like root work, medicinal candles, vinegar with some leaves, put together in the bathtub to make, a version of holy water. I'm gonna be honest, all this stuff is out of my realm. So, you have that. Then there was a lady who, the neighbor, who starts as a nurse, who then you get a backstory on her, which I thought was really, really cool. And so she's a big part of the exorcism, which I'll save for you watching the movie. But, so like her character was cool, getting her full story and everything. And then, when she delivers the line of, I believe that God put me here for a reason, I that was a good line. It was a good, like, when she broke down why she felt that way, I was like, yeah, that's legit. And so anyway, so then her character, trying to perform the exorcism, and it just, having, and then you have the non-believer and the father. So like having these different perspectives, I thought was a neat way to do this. But then we get into, the exorcism is, obviously you have the build-up, but then the exorcism, that is one of the biggest parts of the movie, right? And again, this one does not deliver compared to the original, and probably not even compared to most other exorcism movies that you've seen. There's some cool stuff that happens. I won't, again, I try not to like just super spoil the movie, but the priest gets involved, and then things happen. So like there's some good parts to it, but if you think back, or if you've recently watched the original again, the intensity of Reagan's character, the intensity of the fathers, well, I don't want to say fathers because I keep saying father for the girl's father in the movie, so the priests, them performing the exorcism, I mean, they're yelling, they're powerful, they're, a strong presence, both of them, and then the demon is a strong presence, and that is the two of them just going at it. And this, I mean, the original is masterpiece. This one doesn't have that. It's not, you feel that the demon is powerful in the sense of what it accomplishes, what it makes the girls do, what it makes others do in that moment, but it just doesn't carry that same weight. And then the ones who are performing the exorcism, don't deliver it with that same weight. And so it really just ends up being mid. And that's basically how the entire movie goes. It's just mid. It's good. It's not great. I mean, honestly, I don't really know what else there is to say about it. Is it like, do I have to watch this every year? No, probably not. Definitely watch the original one all the time. This is not going to be one that like I have to watch all the time. It's cool, but that's where it ends. And so I would say, for once, I think the reviews are kind of accurate. Like, because overall, I think on IMDb, for example, it has like a 4.5. So that's a mid movie. I'm okay with that. You know, a lot of people are giving it a 1 or a 2. I personally won't go that far. But I think that it is just a very mid movie. Now, you know, if you've seen a million horror movies, if you've seen a million exorcism movies, then yeah, you might end up rating this one a 1 or a 2. Because like I said, I just don't think that it probably brings much new to the genre, but I still think it was good. I think for me, in all honesty, what really, really, really saves it is the actors. The actors do an amazing job for what they're given. It's just like I said, when it comes to these scenes, it's not that the actors are doing a bad job. It's just that's how it's written. That's how it's done. It just does not live up to what the original is able to replicate, or it's not able to replicate the original. And then I'm sorry, the McNeil character. I mean, she was awesome, but I will say what happens to her is surprising. Just because you don't expect it, but it was almost like short-lived, as in her role. I mean, she's in a decent amount of the movie, I guess. We'll call it the whole second half, in pieces. But it's like she doesn't. It's obviously that she's brought in for the fan service, and then I think quickly moved out to kind of keep the story going. But so I mean that was it was okay. It was okay, which again is basically just what you could say about the whole movie. But yeah, so with that said, I mean, I'll wrap it up there before I keep rambling and saying the same shit over and over. So if you're checking it out, please let me know in the comments what you thought. Make sure to check us out on the low grades. I'm sure we will be discussing it tomorrow. And then obviously I know a lot of other people are going to be seeing it over the weekend. So check it out. Let me know what you thought. There's going to be people out there that really, really love it. And I would like to hear your opinion. And then I think a majority of people are going to find it mid. And then there's going to be people who think it's absolutely trash. And but I think most people are probably going to fall into that mid category because it is just a mid movie. But until next time, I don't know what the next movie is that I'm going to watch, so I won't even sit here and tell you that I'm going to go see this or that because I really don't know. So until next time, I will go ahead and sign off. Have a safe time out there. Hopefully I do another review before Halloween, but happy holidays. Happy Halloween, everybody. It's October, Spooktober, and yeah, let's get it, man. I am out. Comic Raider, deuces.